Multiple media resources refer to an ancient giant human petrified into natural rock of the mountain at Corbi de Piatra. The rock is located onto a private property close to the archaeological site that is currently arranged as a tourist attraction. This being said, I'll go there in person and will study the giant body in detail. Passing inside, we immediately see something that looks like a petrified curved spine of an ancient creature. We take a closer look at the wall, and then, after the corner, we see a ladder that brings us up onto the mountain. I couldn't find anything to be studied up there, except for a beautiful landscape. So we'll focus our research down here. Installing a Geiger tube and letting it for a few minutes to take an average. In the meantime, we can take a closer look at the petrified animal spine. We can clearly see some transverse channels that look to be the petrified dehydrated spinal discs. Looking at the Geiger-Müller tube, we've got a nuclear radiation that averages to 9 microsieverts per hour, with the peak values that don't overpass 12. That looks in the normal radiation range, so we cannot pretend that this wall is radioactive. Now we are down the street going to look at the same rock from a different angle. Watching it from this place, we can see onto the corner something that looks like a petrified giant human hand, with its fingers pointing upward and the back of the palm pointing towards us. It's hard to say if this is a petrified real hand, a sculpture, or just an optical illusion that tricks our eyes. We are now going down the street, looking for the blue house. The gate is already open. This house is over 100 years old, and its owner was an old lady who died a few years ago. Her granddaughter is so kind to invite us inside the house, and is also telling us a few words about her grandmother.
Când am făcut parastasul de 6 săptămâni, am primit fotografiile.
We are now back outside, and we are going to visit the back of the yard, where her husband tells the giant story to everybody who's willing to listen. We can now see the fossils of a fish or reptile, with the head pointing to our left and its tail up to the right. Down here is another trace of a petrified animal. We can also see a hole made by man's hand. This place is really beautiful. They even have a cascade falling down here. And you can now see myself going too close to the giant. And here it is. The guy explains us that this relic got discovered by the history teacher of the village, together with the priest, about 42 years ago. Back in the 90s, researchers from Romania, China and Japan got a sample out of the upper part of the giant leg, where you can see a small piece missing. They've promised to be back with the result in 2 weeks, but they've never came back. This makes this guy to think that they've probably found nothing interesting, and that's why they probably didn't came back. The giant was one day in one piece inside the rock wall. However, time and elements caused his head to fall down at some point back in time, and we can see his broken head down in the grass.
I-a spus, bunica, ai un uriaș în piatră în spate. O fi, mamă, sunteți mai cu carte, eu le văd pietre. Dar cercetătorii, doctorii, geologi și arheologi spun că forma e foarte reală de un parte din craniu, ca dovadă că ar fi fost om, a avut creier aici. Deci o parte din nas sau nară și acolo partea din față și un ochi.
I'm checking the nuclear radiation directly onto the giant nose, and surprise, although not at dangerous levels, it's visibly higher than the rest of the wall. Here we've got an average of 10 microsieverts per hour, with peak values that reach 16. This probably means that these pieces are significantly older than the wall in which they've got stuck. But is this a real body or just an artificial ancient statue? I need to analyze the composition of these pieces, so I'll take a look at the microscope. It looks very similar to the composition of trovans, the growing rocks. Looks like carbonic sand that attracted dust which aggregated together. Considering the nuclear radiation level and the composition, it's pretty possible that this process happened over a long period of time onto the bottom of an ancient sea after a volcano or whatever carbonized the biological tissues, causing the flesh and bone to become rock. This could be something similar to what happened to the people in Pompeii. So I have no doubt that these relics could be the remainings of something that one day was alive. Measuring the sizes and proportions of different parts of the body, it seems possible to match human proportions, but there are still two details that make it impossible to be human. The pupil of the eyes is long and thin, and the brain hole doesn't resemble at all that of a human brain. Even if the brain would have been the same size as ours and not proportional to the rest of the giant body, it's still too small and too different in shape to work like a human brain. So my conclusion is that it's a real petrified body, but not a human one. It might possibly be an ancient creature of some kind, undiscovered yet. To summarize what we've seen today, a giant animal spine, a possible human hand, a petrified reptile, and the giant body of an unknown ancient creature. For paranormal investigation, I wish you all the best until our next episode. moved by.